Hello and welcome back to my channel, Talented Reads. So I've seen a couple of other people on BookTube who have done like a reading vlog where they read books that have like similar covers. And I love watching those videos, and I think it is fascinating, how similar book covers can be. And I was scouring my bookshelves, and I've got 4 books here, that I think would be conducive for a video, so I thought we could go over what I've got and I could read them for this first week of April. I think that would be fun. Somebody told me that it was like National Lookalike Day sometime in April. I couldn't find it. I think it's close to Easter. I don't know. But anyways, I thought it would be fun to do. So let's look at the books that I have. I have 2 that are similar and then another group of 2. I think 4 books would be decent. So let's talk about what I got. So first book is When She Returned by Lucinda Berry, which is a thriller. It says she disappears, a wife and a mother. She comes home a stranger. Yeah. And when I was looking at this cover, like, you would think right off the bat that it doesn't look like a typical cover that you would see in thriller books. However, I was looking at this and I saw another book on my shelf that almost looks like it was like in the same hallway, so you could look at this girl and she's like clearly going from one side to the other, but like as she's passing through, you could like call out to her and be like, hey, and then she would turn around and like, doesn't look like the same hallway. I don't know. I think it looks pretty similar. I'm gonna go with that. So this is Insomnia by Sarah Pinborough. I have read Behind Her Eyes, which is one of my all-time favorite thrillers. If you've read it, you get it. I don't know if I've actually read any of other books. I feel like I have, but anyways, I thought that was a pretty similar cover. Don't you think? I think so. So, we'll start off with 2 thrillers. I think that's a solid pick. Next is The Note by Oliver Burke. Now, when I saw this, I was scrolling through, I think it was Barnes & Noble and their website, and I was like, oh, I have that book. And then as I was reading about it, I'm like, that synopsis doesn't sound familiar. And then I was looking at it farther, and I'm like, this book hasn't even been released yet. Like, this was like the end of December, and this book was released in January. So I'm like, well, did I get like an early copy? So I was looking through my NetGalley stuff, and I was like, no, I don't have it there. I'm like, God, that cover looks so familiar. Like, I know I have that book. Well, come to find out, I don't have this book, but that is why the cover looks so familiar. It's literally the same pool. I think the only difference is the people in the window. I think this one is like one girl and this one has a girl, but she's on the other side of the window. So, I mean, come on. So I was right. I did own a book with this pool. But yeah, they're two separate books. So I'm also going to be reading The Notes by Oliver Burke and Privacy by Nina Sadowski. I have not read anything by this author. I believe these are both thrillers as well. It says a successful therapist's world is upended when her patients are targeted by a campaign of twisted psychological harassment in this propulsive novel from the author of Convince Me. And then The Notes, which, aren't you guys so jealous? I got a signed first edition. I think this is, yeah, it says it was meant to be a harmless prank. I'm not a big total synopsis reader, but I think they, like, go to this house for vacation, somebody does a prank, and it ends up going horribly wrong. This author wrote The Wife. Ooh, there's my signature. Fun. Which I think I did read. Oh, crap. They have a lot of books. Isn't that funny? I think I read The Wife. But yeah. So, awesome. And these two, I think those are some solid choices. I'm excited about that. Yeah, so I guess we'll start. Let's see, today is the 30th of March. So we'll start on the 1st, and these will be my first lineup for April. Excited! Alright, so I started this book, When She Returned, by Lucinda Berry. Oh, it smells nice with my sheets. Look at that. So this is about Kate, who is a wife. Her and her husband were married. They were like sweethearts when they were kids and got married. And she gets a job shortly after her daughter Abby is born. She's kind of like getting back into the working world as a mom. And I think she's like a journalist or investigative journalist. And she accepts a job kind of researching this new religious group, and like leaves her family, and we kind of open like she's been gone 11 years, and then the dad and the daughter get a call that their mom has been found alive. So then Kate returns to her family after 11 years, and of course, like, the dad's remarried, and the daughter's obviously older now. And yeah, it's kind of like, at this point, I'm like almost halfway. At this point, it's kind of like trying to like reacquaint herself. Obviously, the FBI and stuff are still trying to piece things together. Kate has been obviously traumatized, so she has PTSD. She's not very like forthcoming with information. So they've been getting like bits and pieces of what have happened to her in these 11 years. The actual point of view of the story, it kind of does like a flashback between the current day, after Kate has been returned to her family, and then the prior sections is kind of like her leading up to going missing. So it's kind of interesting now. I mean, obviously, it's more of just, you know, the grief of the whole situation. I mean, I can't imagine, you know, you've come to terms and have grieved and have like a new normal routine after somebody's been gone that long. You know, they had a funeral for her and, you know, all this stuff. And I can't imagine like seeing someone after 11 years, you know, come back. So like everybody's kind of just trying to like figure out where their new norm is, grieve the return of their mother, and try to figure out what happened to her. It does have culty vibes, so if you're not really big into cults, you're probably not gonna like this. Right now, I would say it's more soft mystery than like high psychological thriller like I thought it was going to be going into it. But we'll see if that picks up. So that is where I'm at currently. I'm gonna read a little bit more tonight and try to finish this, maybe. So I will check in with you later. Hello, friends. So, I'm reading this book, and I got to an interesting part I wanted to share. So, I'm kind of at the part where Kate, who is the mother that disappeared and she came back, we're kind of in her past point of view, and we kind of got to the part where, like, we understand kind of how she, you know, came missing first time, right? And so, this isn't a spoiler or anything, but she's obviously being held somewhere, right? And so, she's in this dark place, and she says that, it didn't help that it was stifling hot, like being cooked in a microwave. And then she talks about that there was a bucket in the corner. It says the bucket in the corner was for exactly what I thought it was. So far, I'd only had to use it once, and there wasn't any toilet paper. Okay, so then later on, like, she's talking about how she, like, hadn't had anything to eat or drink, and she wasn't, like, she was just unfamiliar, like, time. You know, obviously when you're being kept in a place, like, you know, all sense of time escapes you, right? And then later on, like, someone comes, and then, you know, she's like, how long have I been gone? Or how long have I been in here? And they said she's been in there for 40 days. So, wait. So you've been in there 40 days and you've only gone to the bathroom once? No, I don't believe that. No freaking way. I mean, I guess if you're not eating or drinking anything, like, maybe after a while. And I know she said that she, like kind of gone through a fast to, like, prepare for, I don't know, religious fasting or something. But, like, even with that, I mean, you would still think you would have had to have gone to the bathroom more than once. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I find that hard to believe. I don't know why it bugs me so much, but it does. Like, don't you have to go poop or something? Like, I don't know. And, like, if I was in this situation, I'd be nervous and scared. And I know I go pee when I'm nervous. I don't know. It just, I can't believe she. Anyways, we'll move on from the bathroom scene. But, yeah. So, I'll check in with you again at some point. Alright. Excuse me. I finished When She Returned by Lucinda Berry. And I give it 4 stars. I thought it was decent. It had some good twists and turns. Like I said, it does have, you know, a culty feel. So if you're not into cults, I would say stay away from this one, because it is, I mean, that is like a major plot point. So there's a lot of discussion about cults and, you know, things that people endure in the name of trusting their cult leader. But yeah, it was pretty good thriller. I still, I'm not sure if I've read anything by Lucinda Berry. I don't think I have, but I'm definitely interested in reading something else by this author. They get a lot of really good reviews. I thought all the characters were very well thought out. It's basically you know, it's a family, right? There's the father, his daughter, the biological mother, and then the lady that the father remarries when she disappears. And then I think the other lady had one son from a previous relationship. So it's kind of a blended family that has come together, and obviously everybody's experiencing things different. So, you know, you kind of have that family dynamic going on. You have, you know, the mystery of the past and, you know, where she's been for the 10 years. Yeah, so it's very interesting. Lots of emotions. I thought all of it seemed genuine and real. And yeah, I don't think the author shied away from, you know, having us understand everything that our main character went through when she disappeared. Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good twister. I have to admit, I was shocked by the turn of events. I was not expecting that. And although I wasn't, like, completely blown away, I liked the twist. I thought the author did that twist well. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm glad I read this. This has been on my shelf, actually for a couple years now, so I'm glad I've finally gotten around to it. So that's one down, and on to the next. I'll be reading the one that's kind of goes with this one, that's similar cover, which I think is the one by Sarah Pinborough. So on to the next book. Good morning. So I haven't started work yet, but I wanted to read this for like an hour and a half before I have to start work. So yeah, let's get started. Alright. Sorry, stretching on my bed. Back in the reading bed. I'm off work. And I'm going to read some of Insomnia by Sarah Pinborough. So, where are we at so far? So the prologue kind of opens on this car accident that hasn't really played into anything so far. But the book follows Emma, who is a mother. She has an older daughter, a teenage daughter, and a younger son. And it's a time which counts back from her birthday. So like chapter 1 is 12 days until my birthday. So this is kind of like a countdown to her 40th birthday. And that's significant because her mother, on her 40th birthday, basically like went insane and did something horrible. At this point, I still haven't, like, they haven't revealed what that horrible thing is. But, so she obviously has not had a relationship with her mother, since she was a kid. Sounds like she doesn't really have a great relationship with her sister, Phoebe, either. But Phoebe has come back into the picture, I guess, is visiting their mom, who's at this, basically insane asylum for criminals. I think it's like a women's ward. And Phoebe's like, Mom's not doing that great, so Emma starts to kind of, you know, go and visit her mom, and she hasn't done in years, and kind of reconnect with her sister, all on, you know, her pending 40th birthday that's coming up. And, you know, her mom always threatened that they were like her, so she's starting to kind of feel like maybe she's going crazy. She's having increasing bouts of insomnia, and there's stuff happening at their home. You know, she's not remembering. She doesn't know if it's her, if it's something else happening. So she's kind of spiraling, right? So, and it's kind of about, like, her, there's some other, like, personal stuff happening. It's creating some tension between her whole family and her husband. So, yeah, at this point, we're still kind of like trying to navigate everything. We're still getting some introductions to some new characters. You know, obviously the point is to kind of make you feel as confused as the character, which I'm certainly feeling. So, yeah, we'll just read some and see how this goes. Get to my page here. Okay, one thing I have to say, our main character, Emma, is kind of annoying. I don't know if we're meant to think of her as an unlikable character, or if she is just naturally unlikable. She's kind of making some stupid decisions, like stuff that's annoyingly stupid. You know, like, the police are investigating you, right? And she's off the hook for one thing, right? So, knowing that obviously they're still looking at her, you're gonna call someone and be angry with them and tell them you're gonna freaking kill them. Like, is that really the best idea? And then she's like, oh, sorry, my anger got away from me. It's like, yeah, you think? Sometimes I really, like, there's stupid stuff, right? But then, like, after reading it, you understand why they're doing stupid stuff. And then there's just stupid stuff that doesn't, Doesn't, I don't know, whatever. Okay, moving on. Okay. This lady, maybe she does need some help. Like, I get that she's having problems because she's making, like, these accusations, right? And nobody's really believing her, which is frustrating in itself. And, you know, that could make a person feel like they're going crazy when they're saying stuff over and over again. Nobody's believing them. Nobody's listening to them. Oh, man. On top of already not sleeping and spiraling, right? She's just becoming a basket case. But, I mean, I kind of already mentioned about the whole phone call thing. So, in this scenario, you know, they're kind of telling her that, like, her son's like, oh, I forgot how, he's like 9 or 10, 8, 9, 10, something around there. And, you know, her husband's like, you're scaring our son, you know, with all your crazy ramblings. And she's like, I would never hurt my son. And so while they're standing in this room, it's her daughter, her husband, her sister, and her friend are all in the living room, and the son comes down the stairs. And so she, like, runs up to him and, you know, is, like, being all lovey-dovey mother to him. And then she starts yelling at him and, like, shaking him. And everybody's like, oh my God, get away from him. And she's like, why are you taking my son away from me? It's like, they already think he's scared of you and they don't trust you with him. Why would you yell and shake him in front of everybody? This lady, man. I don't know. I'll keep reading. Maybe she'll make some smarter choices in the half part of the book. Okay, so I came across something in the book that I had to mark because it was interesting. It says, Phoebe has never talked about any of that. She would remember them surely. But how much do we remember of anything? Memory. We rely on it so heavily for everything we know about ourselves and those around us. But actually we remember so little. Just wisps of emotions or a smell or a moment. Corrupted files in our heads. Pages missing, torn or burned. Discs unreadable. Memories are like time, constantly slipping from our grasp. Wow, is that like not the most accurate thing you've ever heard? Wow. Alright. Almost done. Let's hash it out. Alright. I finished. Ow. Oh, my hip is not happy with that position. I finished Insomnia. I'm gonna give it a 3. You know, it wasn't bad. I didn't really care for the direction that it went. I thought like the author was stretching just to stretch, but it didn't, I don't know, it just didn't land for me. As we all know from the prior clips, I had a little problem with the main character. She was kind of stupid. I don't think she was supposed to be stupid. I think we were supposed to feel for her. And I did not. I think the family dynamic was a little weird. I don't know that I felt like I really believed in the family as much. I felt like, you know, some people were meant to be toxic. I thought her daughter was kind of a brat. Her husband's, I didn't really care for him. The sister was kind of a brat, so I don't know, maybe is part of the family. I don't know. Like, it wasn't bad. There were a few good twists and turns here and there. The countdown to the birthday was interesting. But again, the whole reveal, like where it ended up going, just didn't land for me. I will say, if you have never read Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough, that is a way better thriller. Those twists and turns land for me, but don't expect this to land like the other one did. Yeah. Yeah, it's a 3. It's not a bad thriller, it's just not my favorite. But yeah, that is book 2 done. I think I'm gonna read Privacy next. Yeah, I'll read that one next. So I'll catch you when I start reading that one. Alright. I don't think I updated you much with this book. But I'm currently still reading Privacy by Nina Sadowski. So the book opens on a scene. We are in the perspective of Dr. Lena Landers, I think that's her last name. She's a therapist and she's called out to a house. She does couples therapy for this woman, her husband, and then they have a young son. And the guy is holding his wife at gunpoint, so she's called out to kind of like mediate the situation. And then we get a perspective from a Cal Murray, who is a like channel news reporter, and he arrives on the scene, and it's kind of like their two perspectives, like her obviously being involved in the hostage situation and then him kind of reporting what's happening. But since that, she ends up kind of being this obviously like real popular, right? And so he's trying to get an interview with her. She, ends up agreeing, but then there's, some other stuff that comes to light, and, obviously the police are involved. But it's really interesting because it flips point of view between Dr. Landers, Cal, who is the reporter, and then there is another perspective, which, let me see if I can find it. Actually, yeah, this perspective, it's just called Watching. And so it's kind of like this, like we don't know who that perspective is. It's just like another person. Kind of like the main theme throughout the whole thing is like, I'm watching you, and it's kind of, there's some stuff that's happening, that kind of puts Dr. Landers like at the center of all these things that are happening. The police are doing this investigation. Cal is doing the reporting, and his news channel is, kind of coming up with the, the coverage for all these different things that are happening. And so, he kind of goes into investigative mode to figure out, like, what's tying all these incidents, and, how is the therapist the center of all of it. It's interesting, but there's, I don't know, like, I wouldn't call it a twisty thriller. I don't, like, even though it's a therapist, I was expecting it to be kind of like a psychological thriller. I don't really think that's the case. There's some interesting things that have happened. I don't feel like on the edge of my seat. I don't feel like any of these characters are any grave danger. I think I'm a little surprised, that Dr. Landers is the therapist, right? But she's like made some decisions, or have come across in some ways that's like, I don't know if that would be what a wheel therapist would say. I don't know. Some of it's a little questionable. I do like the dynamic. I think it's interesting that these point of views are from some very different character perspectives, and it's interesting that they're kind of all like, you'll get a chapter from, you know, the therapist, right, and then the next chapter will kind of not like pick up from her, but you'll get like, there'll be like a little bit of an overlap, you know, and then Cal's perspective will kind of be like the one little event that's happening, like, you know, it's the same event but from his perspective, which is kind of interesting. Or there's just some things that he comes across that he doesn't realize, you know, is something that like the reader has already been made aware from somebody else, or the therapist's perspective, right? So, I mean, there's some kind of cool twist like that. The watching chapters, I think they were kind of interesting at first, but now I'm kind of like, yeah, you're a psycho freak watching people. Like, I get it. Like, what, at this point, none of those chapters are really providing any other insight to the book, so I'm kind of over those chapters at this point. But as you can see, I'm almost done with the book, so I'd like to just read and I'll give you my final thoughts when I'm done. Well, what do I have to say about that? Okay. Okay. So I'm comfortable in saying that my rating is a 3. I don't think... Okay, so if you're going into this thinking that it's going to be this twisty thriller, it's not. There are a couple of twists. Okay, so I will say that the final reveal did catch me off guard. I was not expecting that. However, there's like the big villainous speech at the end, which, like, I get, because it kind of provided a little bit of insight, but, like, the whole reason why was just kind of, I don't know, it was just kind of stupid. I don't think it made it that much more interesting with the big why behind it, right? And knowing what I know now, I'm still not sure I'm entirely sold on the watching perspective. Like, I kind of get it, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. Yeah, I'm good with a 3. I mean, it wasn't a horrible reading experience. It still kept my interest enough for me to keep reading. I was hoping it was going to be more psychological thriller, a little more twisty, edge of your seat kind of stuff. I didn't get that, but I don't know that that's necessarily the book's fault, because it doesn't really say it's going to be this heart-pounding thriller. I just made that assumption all by my little self. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, I think it's a mediocre mystery. Yeah. I really don't have much more to say other than that. But that's third book done, and now we'll get into the last book, which is reading a book that is similar to this one. Happy Saturday, folks. It's actually Saturday afternoon. I spent some time outside doing gardening stuff. I got my panda for dinner. Yum yum. And I'm gonna get started in the last book. So yeah. Okay. I started reading this earlier. I was struggling a little bit, like reading it physically, so I listened to the audio for a little bit. That did not help. So I'm back to reading it physically now. Panda Express was freaking amazing. Took a bit of another nap. But anyways, let's get back to this book. So, The Note by Oliver Burke. So we are following, sorry, I'm trying to get comfortable. We are following 3 friends, May, Lauren, and Kelsey, I believe. And they have planned this kind of, they're like long lost friends that have kind of become friends over a shared tragic event that has happened in their lives. And they are going on this little trip, to kind of reunite, you know, get that spark back in their friendship, because it's been a long time since they've gotten together. There's been a little bit of turmoil amongst the 3 friends, but they're putting all of that aside for this lovely getaway. And then something happens one night. There's a prank that one of the girls decides to pull, in which she leaves a note for somebody, which spawns a police investigation, and now they're at the forefront of all this stuff. Okay, so first of all, I was struggling a little bit with the physical, and then the audio didn't help with trying to keep all the characters straight. And it's not like there's a lot of them. It's just, I don't know, like, I feel like I'm reading a book with a large group of friends, in which there's like 5 or 6 characters, right? And there's only the 3 of them, but when I'm reading the story, I'm forgetting that there's only 3 of them. Like, May, I think, is kind of distinctive, and I think it's her main point of view that we're getting, right? And so, like, she's kind of this tough body, and the other 2 aren't, so she's obviously, like, established herself, and she's, you know, like, okay, we get her character. But then the other 2 girls just, like, blend together. They're just, like, one person. And then, I don't know. It just seems like all the stuff that they're doing, and, you know, they go to a restaurant, and they're, you know, gossiping, and they're talking about Cosmos, and it just seems like it's more than the small group of people. I don't know. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's just kind of weird. And the way that those three are talking about, like, their past and current situations, it just doesn't seem like in the real world they would even be friends. I don't know. Yeah. And also, this book, there's a lot of references to COVID in here. And at this book, they're talking about, like, one of the girls is like, you know, like, she's struggling kind of being, you know, now that COVID is over and everything's opened, like, up again, like, struggling kind of re-entering society, which I get, like, a lot of people are. I mean, there's still places I haven't gone, right? But, like, I guess I would understand that. I think if this book was published around the time of COVID, you know, like, obviously a lot of books that were published during those years, you know, that was part of the plot because that's the time we were in. But, like, it's 2025, you know, like, I don't know, it just, and this is, like, newly published, so it's like, I get why you're trying to make a point that the girl is a recluse, but, like, I'm bought in, like, she's a recluse, I get it, like, you don't need to drive it home every 4 chapters, you know? I don't know. As far as what's happening in the book, they're just, you know, this prank that first of all, I freaking hate pranks. I hate them with a passion. And the one that they did is just stupid. And, I don't know. I'm not totally, I'm not totally, it sounds like I'm totally hating it, but I don't. There are some things that are happening. There are some things that they're talking about from the past that I haven't quite pieced together yet, that, you know, we're slowly coming to terms with and learning about. So, like, those are still interesting enough to keep me reading because I want to know about them. But, like, some of these other plot lines, like, I could care less. Like, it doesn't seem to be doing anything to the story. So, like, I could care less. But I've got, like, a 4th left, so I'm just going to knock it out. Alright, I finished the note. I'm giving it a 3. It wasn't a horrible experience. I wish we would have gotten more of the mystery of the past, because I think that was honestly more interesting than what was happening in the current time. Like, the prank with the snow thing was just, it was stupid. You know, it was like adults being non-adults. I don't know. I didn't really see, like, much character growth, which you would think, you know, like, one girl's, like, supposed to be super rich, but she just acts like spoiled rich person, you know, and even with the stuff that have happened in their lives, like, you would expect them to be growing a little bit, but nope. So, with all that said, let's talk about all the books together, shall we? So, that's a wrap. 4 books. So we got a 4, a 3, a 3, and a 3. No, like, really new favorites, but, yeah, I had fun. these are 3 out of the 4 books are ones I've had on my shelves for a while. So I'm happy to have had the chance to read them. And that is it for my reading vlog. Let me know in the comments if you guys have read any of these, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.